Welcome back to Schoolwork in Progress. I'm Emily, homeschool mom to 2 kiddos, 8 and just shy of 11. And today we're talking about our group subjects for both kiddos. We do a lot of things together because who has the time to split it all up? Oh my God. Oh my God. We are, for spelling, going to use Logic of English Essentials. I don't know if you're familiar with Foundations. That's one that's super popular for littles learning to read. This you can also use to learn to read, but it's a little less colorful and engaging. And that is what's great about Foundations. We used levels A and B for my kids when they were learning to read, but now they're both really strong readers. Spelling is a challenge for my eldest. And this covers everything. It covers reading, spelling, vocabulary, and grammar. But I really want to use it to focus on spelling. That's my plan. I know from what we've tried in the past that actually learning the rules helps him. He's very logical. He wants things to make sense and fit into their box. And so if we can study and learn those rules, I think that will help him make more sense of spelling. I do have printed the workbooks. So there is a workbook, and then I also printed, but I bound it together, a spelling journal. This is something I didn't really use before, and I think now that I've seen what didn't work for my son, I think this might actually be wonderful. So it has different phonograms listed, and then you can list words as you come across them where they belong, and then you can use that for he could use this for his own reference. This you can use with multiple ages. That's why I chose it for our group. You can use the same lessons, and they have a level A, B, and C all within this book. So level A would be, that was confusing. Level A is your short, simple CVC words. Then it gets progressively more challenging. So theoretically, you work through all of this. This is lessons 1 through 7. There's another book that is 8 through 15. You could work through it all at level A, and then work through all of them again at the higher levels. So we're gonna give this a shot, focusing on the spelling, and see how it goes. Additional information, I just discovered 2 days ago that there is an online component. I think you can just purchase the online and use it as is. Don't quote me, I know nothing. I just found out about it 2 days ago and I have to research it. But I think they do recommend that you have this and then you can use the online to supplement. Even though it's not like a video game, the fact that it is on a computer and you can move pieces around and click them and it gives you immediate feedback about whether or not it's correct or not, I think will be great for my kid. So I might spring for the, I think it was $65 for that. This is something we've had for ages, so it doesn't feel like a huge burden to add that on. But if you were just buying it all, this is expensive, and I could see how that would just feel like one more thing. But I've had this sitting on my shelf that I got used years ago, so it doesn't feel like it's a huge extra in the budget right now. But I think I'll be your guinea pig, and I'll try it out and tell you how it is. Last year we started using Michael Clay Thompson for grammar, but because of a ridiculous move, we didn't move far, but we moved into my husband's childhood home, which needed to be completely gutted, and we lived here for 6 months without bedrooms. So homeschool looked a little crazy last year, and we only made it through the first book, just through Grammar Island. So we took a long time to do it, but my kids really, really understood it and it worked really well for us. So this year we're moving on to the rest. Building language for vocabulary. We're going to try that out. Practice Island. This just has sample sentences and lines for the 4-level analysis that they teach in Michael Clay Thompson, which if you are interested about and haven't seen one of the other million videos on YouTube, we can look into that later. And Sentence Island. So Grammar Island does talk about the basic parts of a sentence: subject, predicate. This goes a little bit more into sentences express actions or equations. A verb must agree with its subject. A thought must be complete. And so we'll learn about making good, strong sentences with Sentence Island. That's the boring stuff out of the way. On to the fun things. The problem is the first fun thing, I don't have much to show. Science. We are doing 2 full science curricula, one of which, my very lucky Mama Heart, has a wonderful friend who is teaching our little friend co-op group, Real Science Odyssey Physics. They are talking about doing so many fun projects, and I'm excited. My kids are not excited right now because they're mostly excited about camping and s'mores and eating potato chips, because that's what summer means to them. But I'm sure once they're in it, it's right up their alley and they're gonna have a great time. At home, we are doing Science Mom. I've heard so much about their classes, both good and bad. I have friends that have absolutely loved it, and of course read all the same reviews that you have of people that absolutely loved it. I've also heard that the videos are kind of long. I don't think that'll be a problem for my kids. My kids are all about the screens, so if they can watch a video, it's a great fit for them. So the only thing I have to show you are these cool notes that you get to print out. We are doing the earth science. I figured we would try the free class because it's free. It's my favorite number. Again, we're renovating our house. Free is really good. So we're doing earth science. It says it's intended for middle school. I offered it to my youngest as an option. She said she wanted to do it. Will she understand it to the same level as my son? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm sure she will get quite a lot out of it. It's time. It's time for the biggie. I have so many books to show you. History. This year we're doing US history. Okay. Real talk. We started it last year. I bought most of the things last year. But again, home renovations. I wanted History Quest, which I love. I love how it's written. I love that I read this chapter. It's like a story. It's not super dry and boring. The history hops are fun. But of course, I had to make it harder. So I wanted this, but I want more, especially for US history, because we all know there are some things to cover. So I took this, and I also got Build Your Library level 5. They split US history into 2 years. So I bought level 5, and some lovely soul on the internets has put together a schedule that combines the 2. So we'll be bouncing around a little bit in this one, but basically going through the Build Your Library levels in the order they are written. But if you have watched either of my other videos, you know I don't like when there are many pieces. So I went through them and I put them all together into my own document, hole punched it, and put it in here because I'm nuts. So basically, I just copy and pasted things and put them into a Word document and printed it out that way. So it goes through, we're doing this week of Build Your Library, and I'm not doing all the other pieces. We might choose some of the literature, historical fictions for read alouds, which we'll do all of our literature and read aloud choices in a different video because wordy, so many words. But I went through, and it's a checklist. Read this chapter of this book. One thing Build Your Library includes that I love is key idea. Like, this is kind of what we're getting out of it. So I can skim through that myself before reading, and I know what the moral of the story is before we get started. If there's map work, if there is something to add to our timeline, please hold on that. They also encourage you to do a president and a state study. They have their own sheet to fill out about each president and each state. I, of course, made my own because I'm nuts. I included all the maps and things that History Quest has. I like the History Quest maps better than Build Your Library. But if there is something on this page that we're supposed to fill out and do, I put it next. And there's 2 copies, one for each kiddo. So each map, and if you saw the grade level specific videos, these maps that they fill out, that'll go in their school nest notebooks. Any books that are recommended, if there's a coloring page, my youngest kiddo will like to do these. Let me show you what I did for the president ones though, and the states. For the states, I kind of took something I found for free online and modified it to have the things I wanted to talk about. So they can put the name of the state up here. If they want to draw what the flag looks like, they can color in which state it is on the whole map. Tree, bird, and flower, because it's kind of fun. And then basic info, state capital, the year of statehood, an interesting fact or people from this state, and landmarks and things to see. A lot of them had all sorts of other information that I don't care about. If someone is telling me about their state, I want to know some random cool fact, and if I go, where should I go visit? What cool thing is there to see? So that's what I included on there. But this was a set that I just printed out. No modifications required. My goal was to have it on one page so they can put this in their school nest notebook when they're done. But it has a little cartoony drawing. Some of them are kind of funny. Most of them aren't bad. Place for their name, some fast facts. Is it important to know them all? Maybe not. Did I like the idea anyway? Yes. So we'll do that. We'll do the state pages, and we'll see how much we get through. But basically, Build Your Library 5, History Quest, smushed together, being friends forever. I brought up some of our books. I'm sure there are more. Many of these were recommended in Build Your Library, and I bought the ones that looked interesting, or the ones that looked like kind of main spines that you would need over many weeks. Lots of the other supplements we'll get at the library as we go. This one I got because, let's face it, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So this we can use for our state pages. It's, if you've seen the other wide-eyed books, they're all beautiful. There's not a ton of words on each page. It's mostly cool facts. Some people, moments to remember, those key facts about what region it's in, what it's... Did you know the lark bunting is the state bird of Colorado? Now you know. An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States for young people. It is for young people. It is not for little people. So my youngest kiddo is probably not going to love reading this one yet, but it'll be great to help bump up our U.S. history study for my middle schooler. In the same vein, A Different Mirror for Young People, A History of Multicultural America. These are the kind of books that were the reason I chose Build Your Library and History Quest. I prefer that my very white children do not just have a very whitewashed version of US history. That's my goal. This one looks kind of fun. King George, what was his problem? This I've heard wonderful things about. It's got some cool cartoons in there, that it makes it much more engaging and interesting for kids. Probably me too. In the Shadow of Liberty, The Hidden History of Slavery, 4 Presidents and 5 Black Lives. This tells the stories of 5 people that were enslaved by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Andrew Jackson. 2 Miserable Presidents. This is another one of those more cartoony and story-based books that I'm sure most of you already know about, and I didn't. Same author as this. Which Way to the Wild West? Heart and Soul, The Story of America and African Americans. This has the most beautiful illustrations. My word, look at that. The White House is Burning. This is a book that was not in the recommended list from either of those curricula. It was something that I already had. Everybody's Revolution. There's a section, in each section of the book, they focus on groups of people that are often left out of history. Black Americans, indigenous populations, women, children, and their involvement in winning America's freedom from Britain. For Which We Stand. I'm excited about this one. This is for the civics studies of it all, focusing on how our government works and why it matters. I am irrationally excited about this book. Interactive Constitution. It looks so cool. It's one of those books that has flaps to lift, things to open, wheels to turn, and I don't know why, but I love that. I love it. So it is all about the Constitution. What is it? Creating it. I'm telling you, wheels to turn. I'm a small child. Words That Built a Nation. Voices of Democracy That Have Shaped America's History. This has a huge list of not just written but also spoken words from various speeches. But for each one, there is an introduction that I have not read. There is some illustration, some summary of why this thing is important to know about, and then the actual words from the document or the speech. 1621, A New Look at Thanksgiving. We Were There Too. Young People in U.S. History. This I love because we never talk about children and their involvement, but what better way to connect to kids that are learning U.S. history than to show them what other children their age were doing at these times. Excited about that one. I'm excited about everything. Excited, excited, excited. How many times did I say that word? The D.K. Smithsonian American History, a visual encyclopedia. This is a hefty book. And it covers everything from Two Worlds Meet from the year 1000 to 1607. And then it goes all the way up to 2018. It's a visual encyclopedia. So there are lots of images of people and documents, artwork. Lots of old photographs. That's the kind of stuff that keeps my kiddos paying attention. So, School Nest, how I love thee. I got their History Timeline notebook. I did decide on this one with little doodles because it's adorable. I love this thing. So it splits. I like that when you do this, you can see the different time periods split up. It goes all the way back to prehistory, which is, of course, undated. But then it gets into ancient times and has just a timeline in the middle. So you can add stickers or drawings or just write things in, whatever works for you and your kids. I just bought this year. So when we go back and we touch on ancients and Middle Ages and all of that again, we can add that to this. We've never done a formal music study, really, at all, ever. So we're really excited this year. We're trying out Torchlight's The Art of Rock and Roll. This is something that I think we're going to end up doing on Saturdays when my husband is at home, because this is something he wants to be involved in. This is volume 1. They're apparently going to come out with a volume 2. I don't know when, but this is up through 1980. So it talks about all of the influences to rock and roll, and it starts with blues, jazz, and swing, and it has recommendations of specific songs to listen to, books that you can read on different artists. This is just 19 lessons, and it's kind of a broad overview, but it gives you lots of room to dig in more if you're interested in a particular something. There are some cool art projects too. So the final lesson is all about logo design. So talking about logos and how and why that's important, and encouraging you to create your own, which I think is really fun. So we'll work our way through this. I just saw Disco and Queen. You guys, it's gonna be so fun. I did get 2 books. There are a few recommended books. And as much as I wanted to buy them all, my bank account disagreed. So I chose 2. One is the DK Music and How It Works, the complete guide for kids. I liked that this is kind of a science-y way to look at things, just more informational. So we have the 7 ingredients: rhythm, dynamics, melody, harmony, timbre, texture, and form. Take a musical journey from Bach to Bowie and learn the science behind great songs. I wasn't crazy for saying the science. I like this. Okay. And this one is more specific about people, legends, icons, and rebels, music that changed the world. So this has artwork for each artist and a quote from them, and then a page or 2-page spread that has more information about that person and their music, why it was influential, why it's important. I got 1 to focus on specific artists, 1 to talk more about the hows of music, and I think that'll be a good base for us to start from, and then we can get more from the library as needed. There are recommendations in here. Art is an absolute favorite of my youngest kiddo. My older kiddo, he does like art, I think, because he tends to be a little perfectionistic. He wants to avoid it because he gets frustrated when things aren't just so. But because of that, him doing art is important for me, because I think it's so great for him to work through that. And I've seen him get frustrated and leave and be brave enough to start over, and sometimes come back and work on something that he abandoned earlier. So all of those things are wonderful, but choosing is never hard for us. We went with Glitterbombers 2 years ago, and I still love it. So the Glitterbomb art curriculum, and these are some that I've printed out. It is an online subscription, and Julie is just the most lovely human, and her team. It does have, I'll see if maybe I can show a video of a little preview of what's in there, because I know it can be confusing if you haven't seen it. It is definitely a library of tons of options, and some of them you can print. So this is a bundle. There are different bundles, a new bundle each month, and you have access to all the old ones and the new ones that come out when you're a member of the subscription. So this is a bundle called Mythical and Unusual Creatures. And in each bundle, so each month, there are a number of projects. This one has 11 projects. There are some that are videos, and that is a great option when you don't want to do it. Sometimes I'll do video projects with my kids, but usually if we choose a video, I'll use that as an opportunity to kind of duck out and take a moment by myself, get dinner ready, any of the millions of other things that have to get done. And then you let Miss Julie do the teaching for you, and she's great. Last but not least is health. Health for us means not just physical health, but also mental health, because without it, we are nothing. We have a tendency towards anxiety in this household. You're welcome, kids. I passed that gene to you. So this one is something that was recommended to me by an actual psychologist, Outsmarting Worry. It is written to kids, but I read it with my kids last year and will probably be reviewing it this year. If you have a kid that tends to be anxious, highly recommend. It has cool pictures, and this is your worry. Look at your little worry. See him over there being a jerk? But teaches very concrete steps and things you can do to help in the moment. This part is not group. These are individual journals for my kids, but I got the Big Life journals. What did I get? I got the standard one for kids, for my youngest. I did get the teen one for my oldest kiddo. He's only 10, about to be 11, but I thought this looked a little more up his alley. A little cooler. He's getting old. Also, for health, we are all about puberty. The Everybody book. We only started this one. This is very inclusive, which is important to me. It is inclusive of all genders, all sexualities, all bodies, and it gets in there, you guys. It talks about it. It gets real. For me, I want to be that household that is open and we talk about things and we are sex positive and all of that, but I was not raised that way. So talking about it with my kids feels awkward for me. Having a book to read is so helpful, because if I were to just sit down and be like, listen, children, I would be a disaster. Having this helps. And even in the first chapter of this book, it says people have different feelings about talking about sex and things related to sex and what sex means. And it says you might be embarrassed, you might be shy, you might be curious, you might be any of a range of emotions. And we talked about that, and I told my kids I feel a little nervous talking about it because it feels kind of private and like something that in our house we didn't talk about. But I want them to be able to come to me. I don't want my daughter to get her period and not know what was going on, like what happened to me, and it was horrifying. So we're starting with this one, the Everybody book, and move right on to Celebrate Your Body. And last but not least, sex is a funny word. This author has a number of books. This one feels like the right age range for my kiddos. He also wrote What Makes a Baby. That was sort of the starter one, the sperm, egg, making a baby. And there is another book that's longer and might be more relational. So when kids are actually starting to get to where they're engaging in relationships and how to handle the specifics of that. So I think there's another one too. I don't know the title of it. But this is also very inclusive, but more graphic novel style. It's exactly what it is. It's a graphic novel. I don't know why I didn't say that. How could there be only two kinds of people? Exactly. Anyway, so this is lovely. It talks about bodies, it talks about changes, it talks about feelings, it talks about consent, and all through these 4 characters. So we've got big life journals, growth mindset, we've got some managing anxiety stuff, we've got puberty. If we finish those, I have a bajillion workbooks with activities and things. I probably bought them in a moment where I was like, why is this particular thing a struggle? And I bought it and then didn't use it. Okay, these are things we might pull out and use this year. What to do when you grumble too much. This series is great. We also have When Mistakes Make You Quake. This is great. I think it'll still be appropriate for both of my kids, but it's great for younger ones. This one is for accepting imperfection and overcoming negativity, but it doesn't talk about it like, you're negative, stop it. Like, that's a terrible thing to say to a child. But the way it addresses and walks through things with both pictures and asking questions is just perfect. It's perfect. So these are great. I also have, I've seen this one in a couple places, social skills activities for kids. So do's and don'ts for making and keeping friends, body language clues, keeping a conversation going, keeping the lawnmower going still. And then these 2, anger management, so we don't hit our siblings, and empathy, because this is definitely a skill that can be taught. So, empathy. Last but not least, and I almost forgot that I bought it, but from Critical Thinking Company, What Would You Do? Moral Dilemma. This is a skinny mini little book that I am sure will make for fascinating conversation. It presents you with a question, a situation, a what would you do? And sometimes they seem like very straightforward. Well, this is what I would do. But then it gives you some other factors to see if that influences how you would handle it. That's everything for group subjects. I have to look at my list so I don't forget. Logic of English Essentials, mainly for spelling, but it does cover many other things if it's something you're looking for. Michael Clay Thompson, Building Language, Practice Island, and Sentence Island. We did the other stuff earlier. Science Mom for Earth Science. U.S. History with Build Your Library and History Quest, and a giant stack of delicious books. Music with Torchlight, learning about the art history of rock and roll. Glitterbombers for Art, and a stack of potentially awkward but very important things for health. So that's it. I'll put some links below of things that were mentioned, and let me know if you're using any of these. I want to know what books you're excited about reading. I will talk about literature selections in other videos because I have some literature selections for each of my kiddos, some for book club that I'm going to be doing with friends, and some for read alouds, and we do audiobooks, and I really like books. A lot. A whole lot. So let me know what you're using, if you're using any of these, and if you have any book recommendations that would go well with these, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. It'd be really cool if I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. None of those words I said just made sense, and I should record the whole thing over again. Let's give it another go.